Anyways, we are going to dive into the Catalyst administrative experience just a little bit deeper. And as you can see, we're going next level. And just in case, for whatever reason, you've forgotten who we are, I am Josh Cleveland. I'm a trainer here on the Wiley Education team. And Sharon Moore is here. She is going to be again, our soothsayer, our tech genius with Catalyst as our software engineer manager. And we're going to dive into a few things here with the Catalyst admin experience. And what we're going to do in this session is we're going to understand how accounts and organizations and departments and groups kind of work behind the scenes in Catalyst. We're also going to explore some best practices for structuring organizations, again, saving your future self some time. Hello, high five. And then discover how to create effective groups that support the analysis, the scalability, and ease of use. Again, hello, high fives. And then we're also going to reduce some of that confusion, right? And build a well organized, insight ready Catalyst environment. And if you are just joining us again, just a quick review. If you're wondering, do I even know if I have access to the Catalyst admin experience? If you look up to the upper right hand corner of your screen when you're on your home screen in Catalyst, you should see the admin view. If you see that, you are golden. If you don't, not as gold. You're maybe silver at this point, but don't worry, we'll get you there as well. And like Sharon said, we'll get some information on how to do that. But just follow with us right now. Follow our screens. Don't try to follow along on your own screen because we're going to be going fast and furious. And we want to make sure that you ingest it all. So Sharon, I know it's time for us to kind of move. So I say, lead us in the way that we should go.
All right, now stay on those slides because we're going to talk just a little bit before I jump into Catalyst. And I want to start this session today by first discussing Catalyst structure so that you get an idea of the capabilities. All right, so this is just how it can be. All right, and it makes it a little bit easier as I talk about specific features if you kind of have an idea of how things are structured. So let's look at it. So first of all, in order for you to be a Catalyst administrator, you have to have an account. This account is actually set up in a different piece of software, and you got that, it's called Epic. You got that account from your provider, and that's something that happened outside of Catalyst, kind of essentially, but you were given an account. And this account is where you, as an administrator, were created. That's where you were first set up as an admin, even before, you got access to Catalyst probably. And it's where your credits or your currency is stored. And through this account, you can create organizations, Catalyst organizations that contain Catalyst learners who are organized into departments and into groups. Okay. And many of us here today are only ever going to work in one account, and we're going to have one Catalyst organization, and we're going to have tons and tons of Catalyst learners that are all members of a ton of different groups and departments. And so your Catalyst, a lot of you, it's going to look like this, kind of like this chart. All right. It's going to be, very simplified. But Josh, if you'll take us to the next slide, but if you ever need to, just know that Catalyst can accommodate multiple accounts. Like one company could have multiple accounts, or maybe you just have one account, but you might have multiple organizations. And so I want to take a few minutes and give you a few examples or kind of tell you why either one of these scenarios might be true. And the first is, let's talk about why would we do multiple accounts? Well, a company can have multiple administrator accounts for a couple of key reasons. And those are, first of all, your company might have like separate business units that have separate budgets. And so they want to keep their credits, their currency separated. All right. You also might have a scenario where your company has maybe multiple business units, and you want to restrict the admin access, meaning you might have multiple administrators, but you don't want all the administrators to see all of the learners at all of the time. So you might want to kind of segregate the organization based on admin visibility. Who needs to have access to whom, right? All right, so that's the main reason for doing accounts. Let's I can't talk, sorry. Let's take a look at organizations though. Why, might you want different organizations? Well, in Catalyst, organizations just represent business units where Catalyst learners work. But um, excuse me. And I wanted to point out this. The organization that you put a learner in Catalyst is also it's shown at the bottom of the Catalyst screen. It actually has the organization logo. It kind of says, Catalyst is being brought to you by, and it gives you your organization name. But it's more than just a logo and a name, like on the homepage. In an organization in Catalyst also determines the people that a Catalyst learner can see and interact with. The organization determines who you see on your colleagues page. It determines who you see when you're trying to get advice and you're searching for someone. Okay. So if accounts affect which learners an administrator can see, then an organization affects what learners or colleagues a learner can see. Okay, so accounts kind of affect admins and who can do what as an administrator. Learners could care less about the account they're in. They don't really know about it. Organizations affect the learners and how they can interact with each other. Okay? So let me share my screen now, and let's take a look at how these things like organizations and departments and groups, how they all work in Catalyst, all these kind of organizing principles. We've talked about accounts and kind of what they are, and we've talked about organizations. So let's see how they actually work. And to do that, I am going to start by logging in here to Catalyst. Can everybody see my screen okay? Yes. All right, good deal. All right, so in Catalyst, most of us will log in, and here I'll go back to the very first. When you first log into Catalyst, you log in as a learner, right? And you land there on the learner homepage. And if it'll pull up. There we go. It's trying. Okay. So when you first log into Catalyst, you land on the learner homepage. And if you want to go and work as an administrator, you click on admin view at the top right-hand corner of the screen. And for most of us, what loads is the organization page. Okay. If you have access to more than one account, okay, so you have access to like multiple accounts, multiple credit pools, you would see an account page, and you'd actually have to pick an account before you would see your organization. Most of us don't have multiple accounts, so we just land on the organization side of things. Now, if you do need to set up a separate organization for one of those reasons we mentioned before, it's super easy to do so. All you do is click on Add Organization. And from here, you just add an organization name and a location. The location could be, like the city. All right. And then if you want to, you can browse for the organization's logo and you can pop it on here. And that's it. That's all there is to creating an organization. And once you've created an organization, then you can just click on it and you can start adding learners and doing all those things that we do with learners, right? Add them, add content, report on them, all those things. And if you need to go back and work in the different organization with the different set of learners, okay, then you go back to your little home page. Do you see that? I'm gonna go back here. There's a little icon. It looks like a house. If you click on that, it takes you back to the organization page where you can click on the different organization. You see a whole different set of learners and you can work with them. Okay, so it's easy as it gets for working with organizations. Super easy. Now, in every organization, they have their own unique set of departments. As an administrator, when you're first setting up your organization, or even after you've been using it for years, you can go in and you can adjust these departments. You can keep it up to date. You can add new departments by simply just typing in a name. That's all there is to it. Not real complicated, no logos or anything like that involved, right? And the list of the departments that are here, it's the list of departments that a learner sees when they register Catalyst, for the first time, when they're signing up before they take their assessment. They have to register their email, their password, and they have the option, it's an option, to pick a department that they belong to. And this is the list. This is where it's pulling that list that the learner selects. So most of the time when you see learners assigned to a department, it's because the learner selected that department when they registered. Okay. And if you want to see who those learners are, you can just click on the department name and it shows you exactly who they are. Once you look at a learner's list in the department, you can transfer that learner to a different department if you wanted to. You can remove them from the department, just kind of have them floating there departmentless. Okay. You could transfer all of the learners in a department if you wanted to a whole nother department. So you've got all kinds of options there with looking at an individual department. Oh, you can edit the department just by clicking the name, or edit over here if you ever need to, change it. Not a problem. And of course, changing it here will change it on all the user records, everybody who had selected that department before. So what do these departments do? Well, other than giving you a way of, seeing people and who's involved in, a particular department, because that's really all you can do. I mean, you can just look at people from departments here. It's not like you can report on them or, do anything content related. What it allows learners to do is to find their colleagues easier because it's on the Your Colleagues page where learners can filter each other by department. So department is just kind of like a characteristic, a label, you might say, added to a learner that helps them find each other. Okay. And one thing before I leave departments, for those of you who want to make sure, again, maybe once a month, once a quarter, you want to go in there and make sure your data is really nice and neat. Here's a way to kind of go in and clean things up too. Check out the departments. The thing I like to look at when examining departments is this little tool. Because when I'm looking at, I just clicked on the word departments and it brings up my whole list of departments. And when you're looking at the whole list, at the top of the screen, it'll show you a raw number, in my case, 7 learners that are not assigned to a department. And I can go in there and assign them to a department right from this screen if I wanted to do that on a periodic basis. So remember this assign button. That's my little tip on departments. If you're interested in keeping it nice and neat and clean, use the assign button to see everybody who it doesn't have in a department and get them in one. Okay. All right. Next, I'm going to talk about another organizing principle that I alluded to, kind of talked about in the first session that we had this morning, and that is a feature called groups. Learners can create groups of themselves and their colleagues, right? They can create a group that they are a member of and they have their colleagues and they can see everybody on a DiSC map and how we all break down and learn about our tendencies and traits and, get all kinds of great information about that group of people. And administrators can create groups as well. When administrators create groups, they have the ability to create either a shared group or a private group. And I'm going to explain the difference between the two by creating a new group from scratch, and then it kind of makes it more sense. So I'm going to click the Add Group button. And what I'm doing by clicking add group is the add group button is I'm basically just creating a container that we're calling a group, and I'm going to give this container a name. And I'm going to describe what kind of group this is. Is it facilitation participants, people that belong to the same location, maybe people that belong to the same division? Is it a project team, a leadership team, or even other? I'll just say it's a project team for now. And then if you click on this little button to make this group visible to all the members in the group, that means once I actually add members, not only will I be able to see the group, but they will see this group when they log in as a learner. Okay? That's all that means. I even have the ability to include myself in the group or not. So that's a feature like learners don't have, right? Learners can only include themselves in groups and learn. And so that makes it kind of neat there, right? So that makes it like truly like an admin group because I don't have to be in it. And after you've done that, you've just given it that information, the name, what kind of name it is, and decided, do you want to share it with everybody? And do you want to be in it yourself? Okay. Then you just click add group, and it hasn't done anything but just created this empty container. Okay. It's an empty group. It has nothing in it. So now I need to add people to this group. And you can add people one by just checking them off. You're not adding new learners. You're just adding existing learners to this new group. So you can go in here and just check people off. You can search for people if you've got hundreds, of people you might need to, like do a search, to find somebody and check them off. And then you add them to the group just by clicking that button at the bottom. Okay. So now I have a group of learners, right? And this group is not shared with the other learners. They don't know about it. It's just my little group. It's just my little admin group. And I can later on, if I'm working with my active learners, if I ever want to pull up those people again, look, it's right here, the one I just created. There those people are. Okay, so that's kind of why I would create a group as an admin, is just so I can pull them up together later on. All right. That's the most popular, thing for doing it. But now how do I find that group again? Okay, it's divided. The groups are divided between shared groups and private groups. And I still haven't told you, like, what's the difference? But I kind of have. Remember when we were creating a group and we had the option to share it with the other group members? That's a shared group. And so if I had done that, that group would be showing up here. But I didn't. I said to keep it, private. I'm not in the group and I didn't want to share it. And so here's my little group I just created, and it's private. Okay. So that's the difference between the two. Now, once you've created a group, you can always go back and edit it by just clicking on the group name. You can add more people to it. You can edit the team name, or excuse me, team name, group name. You can change it to something else. You can change what kind it is. You can even turn it on and make it visible for people later. Josh, why would you want to do all of that with groups? Are there any good group suggestions you can think of?
Yeah, one, saving yourself some good time in the front end, but also doing private groups or shared groups again, kind of getting to what my person was working for when they wanted to send those emails out. uh, you can hold off on sharing a group until everyone has completed their assessment. That way, they can't see everyone until everyone's there, which can kind of be kind of nice to be like, hey, everyone's on my team. And I know we've all gotten those questions. If you release a group before everyone's there, someone inevitably is going to say, hey, I thought John was in this group. And of course they are. They just haven't finished their assessment yet. So you can kind of save some of that confusion.
And last but not least, before we wrap it up on all of our little next level organizing principles and catalysts, I just wanted to show you that if you do create a group as an administrator, you have the ability to download the group map, meaning actually show these little guys, their little dots, their little avatars on a picture of a disk map, or I can download a CSV file meaning, a comma delimited file. You can open it up in Excel. And it's going to look just like this. It's going to have first name, last name, email, and their style. So it's kind of like a word, representation of a physical visual map. Okay. All right. And we're going to talk about some other things you can download and do with groups in our next session.